what we're going to do is, now that we have the shapes, we know we have enough material here to make 2 mugs, okay? We're going to set this aside, because we can always re-flatten this and use it again. Okay? Put that right there. What I like to do now is explain to you that you can make like a texture on this clay. All right, the texture is very interesting and it's fun, because what you can do, say for instance, we're going to start with this. Okay, this costs $1 at Walmart. Okay, this is a placemat. Okay, for a table. But when you put this on here, right? Okay, yeah, I don't want to roll your fingers. Want to do it? There you go. Just, yeah, give it some pressure there. Yeah, that's good. Flatten it out real good.
I didn't want to destroy it.
Oh no, that's okay, because we're going to cut it again. The reason why I do this is because the first cut is just to give you enough shape so that you know you have enough clay to work with. And then the second cut that we're going to do is actually going to be for the form itself. Okay? Now we have plenty there, okay? So, what we're going to do now is take this again, put it over here, and recut it. So, do the honors. Great. Just go all the way around with it. And what we're going to do next is something very important. I was a few minutes late today because I thought I had everything that I needed, and when I got just at JFK Center here, I was like, I forgot my newspaper. And it's not because I want to keep up on the news so much, it's because I need a piece of newspaper to make this form work so that it doesn't stick to the cup. All right? And I have figured out a way to do this through practice that really works well. You only need this much newspaper. Okay? Take the cup, set it like this. Okay? Fold it over. And then basically wrap it in like that. So now what you have is the cup's completely covered. Okay? All right? And that's what you need. So what you want to do at this point, take the actual mold, I call it, okay? Place it here, place it along the edge, keep it tight, and roll this across your slab, okay? And just give it a little bit of extra push at the end here, and see, now you can see the overlap, all right? Now, Joanne, I want you to use your pen tool and this. I'll show you how to do this when you do the next one. Okay? This is kind of tricky, but it's not, once you know how to do this, you say, wow, I was always wondering how to do that. See the overlap here? Basically, you cut the overlap right down the middle, like this. All right? And then you have this clay left over, and then you have this clay left over. And now it'll fit perfectly. Okay? Because you've already removed the excess on either side. So essentially now I can re-roll this, which basically, start here again. Follow the contour here, because this is the top of your mug. Okay? I'm going to cut it again. Because this is a lot of clay. All right? And now all we have to do is push it in a little bit. And since this clay is still pretty plastic, right? you don't even need any water. A lot of times if you're working with clay that's a little bit drier, okay, it's more leather hard, and it's nice to work with it like that, but this is actually a little bit easier because now you've closed your seam here, okay, and you have here, it's fairly well contoured to the edge of the cup, which is what you want. And you can see already that you have the design on here, okay? You have to be careful because the clay is kind of soft right now, sort of plastic, so you don't want to mar the design. But what do you think we're going to do next here? What do you think, if you're making something and you want to make it strong, what would we do? Would we put the handle on next, or would we put the bottom on?
Base.
The base, right. Exactly. So this is how I do it. This is pretty much the right thickness, okay? So you place that on there. Place this on top, okay? And then you just go around. It's a little eye-hand coordination here, but that's what a lot of working with clay is. You know, you're working with your hands. You're squeezing something. You're flipping something over, or you're cutting the clay, which is what we're doing right here. Okay.
Do you put the handle where the seam is?
Yeah, exactly. That's where we put it. That's a good question. That's exactly where we put it because we can hide the seam that way. And it strengthens it.
So then, do you position the design so that it'll be at the other side, or don't?
I'll show you.
Oh.
Okay. Thanks for asking. That's a good question. Okay. So now you've got the bottom on there, right? And essentially, okay, you can see the bottom, but you don't have to see the bottom. In fact, it's better if you don't, and you can strengthen this a little bit if you use something like this, right, which was part of the laundry basket, okay? Because good potters know how to adapt things to make, you know, things that they want to make. If I go like this, right, and I squeeze the bottom and push down at the same time, right, push down the middle a little bit, and then basically you're rounding it off, and at the same time you're rounding it, okay? You're being gentle with it, and you're not like pulling in on it, but that's why I use this. Because when you go around like this, what you're doing is welding the seam of the base to the walls. As I said before, clay is very forgiving, so you can, you can play with it a little bit, and it's fine. The only thing I'm careful about is you don't want to add too much water to it. It's best to let it dry a little bit. If you add water to it, what winds up happening is the clay gets messy, and you want to avoid that. Okay. So now you can see that because I use this pattern, and this is the bottom, all right, it's fairly well uniform. Okay. So you want to make sure it sits flat. Now we're ready for the handle, okay? So I'll move this out of the way. This is fun too, because what you want to do is you take this little slab of clay and you want to make a handle out of it. Well, you have more clay here than you need, and that's good. So what I try to do, rather than try to make a handle that's going to have a real tough, like rough surface, a texture that the side has, or that the base has, I go with this again, because it still will have a texture, but it'll be a lot smoother. It's a little bit finer, all right? And what I do here, essentially, flatten it out. Now you don't really have to put any pressure on it, okay? See, it has that little alligator pattern on it, okay? And what I try to do also, smooth it out. Certain amount of this we're going to discard. So this is going to have a fairly nice wide handle. All right. So you rub this on well enough so that you have that texture, okay? So now you can see, you have something that you can use for a handle, okay? Now, what I do at this point is two things. Just like you had asked, I find the seam, right, and I score it a little bit, okay? This is where you do use a little water, okay? You score it right at the top.
You want some water?
Oh, no, I brought some. Don't need much, though. I think what I need is a brush, and I have such a thing over here. Okay, brush. All right, of the mug. And we want to get it a certain way. And the way that I always like to do it is when you cut it on an angle so you can put it on and sort of flip it over like this. It has more to it here on the side. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I take this, I cut like a 45-degree angle right there, okay? And the bottom, basically parallel, say, don't need much, but let's say that's the size of the handle we want, okay? You have your score on the top, you have your score, say, on the bottom. So this is where the bottom of the handle is going to go, all right? So you basically, what you're doing is softening up the clay and making it so that when you put a little water on it, it creates a little bit of a slip, which is essentially the glue that will hold the handle on, especially at first, okay? So you put a little water on there, a little on there, all right? Take this, place it here. How I do this is so. It all depends on what kind of handle you want, how big you want it. But you want to line it up, so you have to, it takes a little doing, okay? But the whole idea is, it's your handle, and it's your mug. So you make it the way it fits your hand. And when you get to the point where you can make the handle exactly the way you like it, that means you've been practicing, and that's what you want to do, okay? So, what do we have here now? We have the finished mug, except for it just needs to dry. What we have to do first, okay, is take the form out. Now, if we've been mindful about what I mentioned before, which is how do you drink out of the mug, okay? This particular handle, you can always adjust it a little bit before you're done, okay? But what you really want to pay attention to at this point, and where you might want to use a little bit of water, but not too much, okay, is to basically have it so that the edge is smooth, all right? It's smooth, so that's the surface that you're going to be drinking from, right? This is where you really use your fingers. Right. Now, again, you don't want to use too much water because if you do, the whole mug, the shape, the form gets a little goopy. You don't want that. So you just use enough to make it smooth, and then when you take this out of here, see, now we take the form out. So this is kind of tricky, but it's not too bad because you basically put your hand in here and you take that right out like that. And then you take the newspaper out, like that, okay? And then you set it down. Actually, what I do first is I take the inside. This is important, okay? You want to smooth out the inside a little bit because that's the part that your lips will touch when you drink out of the mug, okay? I even have a little chamois that I use. And if you really want to make it nice, okay, there's still a couple things. I was sort of rushing it, but I want you to see something here. I brought, y'all know what a chamois cloth is, right? Usually dry your car off with it when you really want to do a nice thing in your car, okay? And I have enough here. But what you do is you get it wet, and then you squeeze the excess water off of it. All right. You got a good grip on it. And then essentially, just going around like this. And for some reason, because you're not relying on your fingers, you're relying on this surface, this flat surface of the chamois, to smooth it out, okay? And then you just keep it in here, keep it wet. The other thing is that's important, that I think it's important to remember that I didn't necessarily show you when I started to put it over there, is you want to get your brush again, okay? And where the seam is, which happens to align with where the handle is, you just basically, you find that seam, and I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah.
And then you just want to get it a little wet, and that's it, okay? Because then it welds to itself. And the whole key is to be gentle with it, and within about 20 minutes to a half an hour, you'll be able to move that without worrying so much about it becoming misshapen, okay? And I look at here, I look at the, because once you put it down, you want to try to see that it's kind of round, that it's not off-center and kind of cockeyed or oval, okay? Okay, that's mug number 1.